Hello guys, welcome to another session of Beginner Python. Um, in this session, we're gonna talk about condition statements. Well, so condition statements form the backbone of, I would say, any programming language, because what these statements allow is they allow you to create a system in which code executes, or certain lines of code execute only if um, certain conditions are met, which is a super interesting thing. I mean, this particular thing has applications across software engineering, machine learning, decision making, right? Which you will realize the importance of this of condition statements when you actually do some software engineer coding or machine learning coding. But to give you a gist of it, let's just take a simple example. Let's just say x is equal to 10. I'm just taking a value in a variable, and I'm going to say if x is greater than 5, I want to print x is greater than 5. As simple as that. Now, since x is greater than 5, because x is 10, it's printed x is greater than 5. So you can see that this print statement is only executed if this particular condition is being met. So this would be the condition, and this would be the statement, right? So what are the rules? So how do you write an if statement? So you start with if, then you put some condition in place. So let's you start with if, and you follow that with some condition. Based on that condition, you are going to say, you're going to give some statement. It's as simple as that. So if, then you would put the condition, and then you would just go for the statement. Looks like I can't write it in that way. Let me just put it in form of comments. That should be better. So it's as simple as that. So for example, let me take another one. Let me say a is equal to 5 and b is equal to 3. And I can say something like if a plus b is greater than 10, and you can say print success. So if I run this, it's not going to print anything because this particular statement is not true. So this particular thing, this statement or the code is going to reach this position if and only if this particular statement is true. In this case, it's not. So it's not even getting to this point, right? So it's as simple as that. So we can extend this to if and else, right? If and else, because if something is true, you would want to print something. And if it's false, you would want to print something else, right? So that's where the concept of if else comes in. Let me take the same example. I'm going to say if a plus b is greater than 10, follow that by a colon, say print success. Else, I'm going to say print failure. And it prints failure because a plus b is not greater than 10. Now, observe one thing very carefully, that we are following the colon with some spaces, or you would call it some indentation. Now, the indentation is very important because this space right here, right, this space right here is what indicates that this particular statement comes within the if condition. Now, if I don't include this space, you can see what happens. It's going to give me an error. It's going to say expected an indented block after if statement. So in order to indicate that this particular statement belongs to this if block, you gotta say, give 4 spaces. You can click on tab. The tab is gonna help you come up with the space. Similarly here as well. Tab, and you have the indentation taken care of. So it's pretty straightforward, your if-else case. The indentation is what's important to remember. So the indentation tells us this belongs in the if block and this belongs in the else block. So that's about that. So can we have multiple conditions? Can we print different things if different conditions are satisfied? And the answer is yes. And that's where the concept of if, else, if comes into play. So I can take the same example. I can say if a plus b is greater than 5, then print low. Then I'm going to say elif, we'll just come back to why elif. A plus b is greater than 10. I'll say print moderate. Else print high, right? So what is going to be the answer here? 5 plus 3 is 8. So it comes between 5 and 10. Well, it is greater than 5. The first statement is satisfied. So it's going to say low. It's going to say low. So what this does is, if the first if condition or if block is satisfied, it's not even going to go here. It's not even going to look into this part, right? Only if this fails, only if the first if block fails, the second one will be considered. If the second one also fails, the third one will be considered. So conceptually, this is not wrong. Let's say, I'll say this is very low. So I can say b is equal to minus 10. Now if I run this, it's going to say very low. So what does this mean? It means 5 minus 10 is minus 5. So a plus b will be minus 5. Now minus 5 is not greater than 5. So this is false. So it will go to the next block, the LF block. Minus 5 is not greater than 10. So it's going to fail here. It's going to go to the else block. And it's going to print what is in the else block, right? It's as simple as that. So for example, if you want to say, so let's take a simple example. Let's write some code. So to say that if a student's marks are less than 35, print fail. 35 to 50, print just passed. And 50 to 70, print first class. And 70 plus, print distinction. So how would you write this? Well, first you would take student marks as the input. So I'll say marks. Let me say that's 80. So how am I going to go about this? I'll say if marks is less than 35, then you're going to say fail. Now, next you're going to follow that up with elif, right? Because you got to check for a few more conditions. Elif marks is greater than or equal to 35 and marks is less than 50, then I'm going to say just passed. So if it's between 35 and 50, you're going to say just passed. So look at this. You can also bring in some logical operators, something that we studied in the first video. Then I'm going to say elif marks is greater than or equal to 50 and marks is less than 70. I'm going to print first class. And else it automatically means that my marks are greater than 70 because there's nothing else left. So I'm going to say print distinction. So if I execute this code, let's say distinction. If I change the marks here to some other number, it's going to say just passed based on whatever condition I passed. So how this is going to work is, so let's say how this is going to work for 45. So is 45 less than 35? This is going to come to fail. For false, let's say false. So it's going to skip this. It's going to go to this elif block, the second elif block. Is 45 between 35 and 50? This is going to come up to true. So it's going to print what is right here. Similarly, if this was 55, then this also would have been false and this would have been true. So what is inside this elif block is going to be printed. It's very simple. And once again, don't forget the indentation here, because the indentation is what tells you that, or indicates that, what statement belongs in what block, right? So just how we have AND here, we can have any kind of logical operators. So you can say, I can say marks is equal to 30, and I can say if marks is less than 20 or marks is greater than 80, then I'll say print, or let me make this 90. I'm going to say print extremes. So if either of these is true, it's going to give you true, and it's going to print this statement. And this is 30. Neither of these is true, so it didn't print any of it. If I say it's 90, it's gonna 91, it's gonna say extreme because it's greater than 90. One of these is true. Similarly, if I say 15, it's gonna say extreme because again, one of this is true. Either one should be true because of the OR logical operator. So you can combine any kind of logical operators here. That should be totally fine. So that's how you combine logical operators with if-else statements. And you can also have something we would call as nested if-else statements. So that means you are allowed to have if-else within if-else, right? So for example, let me take this same example. Let me do something like, if marks is less than 35, currently it prints fail. Now I can add another if statement within this if statement. So I can say if marks is less than 35 and it comes to true, and I'm going to check for another thing. If marks is less than 35 and marks is less than 10, I'm going to say lots of improvement required. Right? And I'll say L if marks is greater than 10 and marks is less than, I don't know, 30. I'll say needs to improve. And if it's greater than 30, I'm going to say print almost passed. Just missed. Right? So now you can see this is called a nested if. So okay, let me close this out. Yeah. So what this means is not only do you have an if statement, but you have a bunch of if else statements within this if statement. You have a bunch of other if else statements within this if statement. So how does this work? So let me say this is 25. So first it's going to check for this marks less than 35. And here we know that marks is less than 35 in fact, so this will come to true. So first it's going to print fail. It's going to say fail because that's the first immediate step after this statement. Then it's also going to check whether the marks is less than 10. If this is false, it again goes to here. If it's between 10 and 30, if this is false, it's going to go to here. So same system of if else statements, or same I would say mechanism, but just that it is within another if statement, right? So now you can see this is going to say fail, and I'll say needs to improve because marks is 25. It's between 10 and 30. So first it's going to say fail, then it's going to check for all these three again, and it's going to print this. And this is completely out of question. This block is completely out of question because marks is less than 35. Similarly, I can have another nested if here. I can say if marks is greater than 90, I can say print amazing job. Right? So apart from distinction, it's also going to say amazing job. Right? So for that, it's going to check for this. So if it's not greater than 90, if it's 80, it's just going to print distinction because this comes to fail. So this is how the mechanism of nested if else statements work. You can have if else statements within if else statements. So I'll just say this is the nested condition statements. Right? So might be a little slightly confusing if you're new to programming, but as you keep on practicing, you will get the hang of it. So actually the nested condition statements start from right here. So that's about if else nested if. We also saw how we can combine different operators, right? Now, what if we can combine lists or other data structures with our if statements? And that's very much possible. So if I have a list with, let's say, a bunch of numbers 2, 6, 9, 10, 13, 17, I can say something like if the sum of the numbers in the list greater than 20, then I'll say good to go. Else, I'll say not good enough, right? So it's greater than 20 here, so it says good to go. If I change this number to, I don't know, 80, it's gonna say not good enough. So there are a few other things I can do. So for example, I can say if 2 in L, print 2 is in L. 2 exists in the list. And else I'm going to say 2 does not exist in the list. Right? So since 2 does exist in the list, it's going to say 2 exists in the list. So you're going to use the word in. Very convenient, right? Very convenient, very intuitive. That's the beauty of Python. So I can say 2 in the list or 5 in list. I can say 2 or 5 exists in the list. And here I'll say neither 2 nor 5 exist. So if I run this, 2 or 5, one of those do exist in the list. Or I can say and, I can make this and I can say both 2 and 5 exist in the list. Neither 2 nor 5. Alright, this I can change it to both 2 and 5 do not exist. So I can change it to this. Oh, it should be L. So this is how you can sort of combine, I would say, data structures with if statements. Very, very useful. You will realize later on when you actually do some real coding. But yeah, these are, so I would say, the most of what you need to know in case of if-else statements, right? And yeah, there's another thing that we can write an if-else statement in the same line without having to have like different lines of code, which I will cover a bit later. But for now, this session, I think we are good to go. Thank you. I'll see you guys in the next session.